Energy is constantly changing. As humans, we are constantly changing. So we affect the energy that is in us and outside of us and in the world around us. Today we are looking at how trauma, that miscreant energy, affects us and how to deal with it. Being human is not easy. We have free agency, and down through the ages, humankind has misused this gift. I'm sure you can think of many instances. We could name the Inquisition, Crusades, war after war, and man's inhumanity to man. These atrocities know no one particular country, time, or ruler, but have been common among all peoples during every age and in every place. Therefore, no one ethnic group has claim to this genocide. But for our purposes here, let us take a look at a recent example, that of the Native American. Native Americans lived happily before the Europeans arrived. They had minor skirmishes with bows and arrows and head bonkers, but not often was someone actually killed. They had trade routes with peoples as far away as China. It is known that the Cheyenne traded copper. They lived in flourishing cities, so they were anything but the backward people portrayed. They had developed a social consciousness that we today are still striving to obtain. When the Europeans came, illness struck, annihilating villages along the coast. That was followed by treachery and murder. Eventually, a country was formed, and the native peoples were burned out of their villages in winter by the government of the United States. That was followed with removal from their homes and the banning of their sacred ceremonies. In 1883, the Secretary of the Interior reported that the heathen practices of American Indians had to be eliminated. He instructed the Commissioner of Indian Affairs to compel the discontinuance of dances and feasts. He asked Congress for greater power to deal with the Indian spiritual leaders, often called medicine men. He asked that steps be taken to compel these impostors to abandon this deception and discontinue their practices. Following the recommendations of the Secretary of the Interior, the United States formally outlawed pagan ceremonies in 1884. This was seen as an important step in the destruction of the Indian way of life. In 1892, Congress strengthened the law against Indian religions. Under the new regulations, Indians who openly advocated Indian beliefs, those who performed religious dances, and those involved in religious ceremonies were to be imprisoned. How ironic that the very people who had inspired the formation of the United States of America and that glorious document, the Constitution, were they themselves denied the very blessings of that Bill of Rights. The reservations were usually useless land until gold or oil was found, and then that was taken from them too. Eventually, the USA government put the native children into boarding schools. The purpose was to take the Indian out, but often it was worse than that. It was like trying to take the humanity out of them. These schools murdered and abused these children in every unimaginable way. This group of people, if they have remained on the reservations, have been left out of what we term progress. They have had trauma after trauma after trauma, and for 100 years were not allowed to perform their ceremonies for grief, shock, or trauma. They were well aware of the results of trauma from war and the trauma effects on the psychic of the people, and they had ceremonies to heal it. But they did not get the right to do these ceremonies until 1978. So this is very, recent history. Today they have rampant problems among their people. They have high alcohol and drug use, a sense of hopelessness that includes high rates of suicide, and suicide is in every reservation. Many people think they should just pull themselves up and get going, but what we have discussed is centuries of trauma heaped upon by more trauma. Until today, we have many people who simply can't cope with their lives, and this is true of all races. It has been difficult because their trauma is held in their auric bodies, both past life and genetically. This trauma attracts more of what happened to them in the past: murder, rape, and homelessness. So no matter how they try, they keep having the past happen to them. These traumas are in their auric emotional fields more than in their heads. But there are other factors as well. Every race has its traumas, no matter what country you are from. There are genetic ancestral hurts to heal, but we have only recently come to terms with what we call post-traumatic stress disorder, or PSTD, and that this can be and often is generational, passed from one generation to the next. Many of these people cannot help their situation, nor their personalities. The reason is because when a man is traumatized, changes occur in his sperm, which are passed on to his children. The children of people who have experienced extremely traumatic events are more likely to develop mental health problems, and research shows this is because of the changes to the sperm. These changes can cause a man's children to develop bipolar disorders and are so strong they can even influence the man's grandchildren. These behavioral symptoms were transferred to the next generation, and even though the offspring were not exposed to any traumatic stress themselves, they still showed metabolisms of stress and mental and emotional aberrations of stress factors. Psychologists have long known that traumatic experiences can induce behavioral disorders and are passed down from one generation to another, but they are only beginning to understand how this happens. Since they have discovered that it is passed down through the sperm, then trauma had somehow damaged the sperm and had imprinted or impacted the sperm so that it carried these stress factors into future generations. We see this in populations that are war-torn today, but in the Native Americans, we have over 500 years of trauma affecting them, and some are more susceptible than others, possibly because of intermarriage with other races, which brings its own auric challenges, and tribes that did not have such horrific incidences. So in their studies, they have looked even further to discover these genetic change markers are carried in the DNA and chromosomes of the DNA. So if this trauma is held in the DNA, how do you heal that? Right now, our scientists are cutting out responsible chromosomes when they desire to make changes and inserting new ones, and going through impossible actions for regular people to accomplish, making any scientific approach impossible. And so this looks complicated and impossible to achieve. There are a whole lot of scientific words that probably mean little to most of us, which makes it even harder to imagine that we have a recourse. And so those of us with trauma, we can expect to spend the next 30 years in psychoanalysis and probably never get anywhere searching and searching as to why we are self-sabotaging, and never ever get close to changing that inherited DNA. For the more you talk about it, the more you reinforce the story in your DNA. But all is not lost. There are healing methods that work on the spiritual level of energies, but I would like to explain to you why they work. Our biological internet is superior in many aspects to the artificial one, like this laptop that I made this presentation on. Russian geneticists have been studying DNA, and they have found something remarkable which will lend itself to healing trauma at the most basic level, so that it radiates out into individuals' lives and families, reshaping their world. 10% of our DNA is being used for building proteins. The other 90% are considered junk DNA. Geneticists have no idea what this DNA purpose is. It is just there. The Russians have made a discovery that DNA is affected by language and emotions. DNA becomes changed. They found that our DNA is not only responsible for the construction of our body, but it also serves as data storage and in communication. The Russians found that the genetic code, supposedly this useless 90%, follows the same rules as all our human languages. This means syntax, semantics, and basic rules of grammar. In other words, DNA understands and responds to the words you think and say, and are spoken to you. Try to comprehend this for a moment. All those angry put-downs and negative words and energies, all the negativity that has been thrown at you all your life, and perhaps your parents' life and their parents' life, literally have changed your DNA. Now imagine 100 years of this type of experiences. Anything repetitive or affected by strong emotion can change your DNA. Anything with the right wavelength, energy signature, can change your DNA. They found that living chromosomes function just like a solitonic holographic computer using endogenous DNA laser radiation. What this means is the chromosomes have a life force light that functions like a projector using DNA beams of energy. Got that? They were able to modulate frequency and genetic information upon itself, since the basic structure of DNA alkaline pairs and of language are of the same structure. One can simply use words and sentences of the human language. Living DNA substances or living tissue will respond to language, modulated energy waves, and even radio waves. Esoteric and spiritual teachers have known for ages that our body is programmable by language and words and thoughts. The work of Masaru Emoto keeps coming to mind. But this now is scientifically proven and explained. The individual person must do the work on the inner processes and mature in order to establish a conscious communication with the DNA. It comes to mind that some time ago, a study was done with people with multiple personalities. They discovered that an individual might have diabetes when they were Jack, but have thyroid when Kathy and gout when Joe. Each personality instantly transformed the physical body, healing it of one illness and instantly creating another. This shows us the amazing ability we have to heal even physical ailments. So many of you have volunteered to come here to heal your families and your genetic lineage, and others are here to hold energies and give support for this healing work, and we thank all volunteers. But what does it take to do this? Before we move into healing this, I would like to talk about just a couple of those generational traumas that our women and some men are affected by: incest and rape. When two people come together with affection and have a physical relationship, there is a chemical that is created between them. I don't mean metaphorically, but physically. This chemical may cause some addiction because of the pleasure associated with it, for they leave some of their energy with the other person. So it is wise that if any of you have multiple sexual partners, to do this exercise to retrieve your energy that you left with them and send them yours. However, when two people come together and one is forced to have sexual relations, then the action creates a most sour energy. The one who does the forcing usually may have drugs or something else in their system, but without a doubt carries a very negative energy. So that when they force themselves upon someone else, they leave part of that energy with the person to whom they have just forced. This is a really icky gray-green energy, and it must be gotten out of the spirit, out of the auric field, as well as the physical body, in order to facilitate healing all the way to the DNA and chromosome levels. So I'd like to run you over just a little process here to let you see what the process is to do this. So here we have our two individuals. Our young woman over here has gotten to the point where she is ready to heal. She's ready to do whatever it takes to make this shift so that she can continue on with her life. At this point, it involves forgiving your perpetrator, not because it will do anything for your perpetrator, but because it is the first step in allowing this energy that you are holding inside your body and in your auric field to set it free. So as our individual is ready to do this, we now bring down a purple screen, and she's going to send this icky, nasty energy that he left with her back to him. And as you see it, it goes through this purple screen and instantly is transmuted into white light. And it is returned to him in better condition than what she has had it. But now, through this entire ordeal, he stole some things from her. He stole her innocence, stole her life, stole her trust, stole her safety. She has spent a great deal of time crying and letting this affect the way that she felt about herself. So he took a whole lot of her energy. So now she's going to demand her energy back. And as she does so, that energy comes back through the purple screen, instantly transmuting into beautiful white light and returning this total unconditional love back to her and who she is. Now you will notice that our individual over here still has his nasty gray cloud, and he will until he does his own healing work. But you will notice that we lightened it considerably. That is the process of healing. Everyone involved gets some healing, even those that don't know they're involved and probably wouldn't participate if they had been asked. And so this beautiful lavender and purple light that we just used, I'd like for you to know where this light comes from. We take the blue flame, the blue light, which represents power of the Father. And we take the pink one, which represents the love of the Mother. And we put them together and create this incredible, powerful energy force that does forgiveness and transmutes even the deepest and darkest energies into the purest and whitest of lights. It is an amazing force to work with. So the entire purpose of this presentation is to bring us to a place where we can do a quantum healing. I quickly went over how to do this on a very personal level, on your own level. And so now I'd like for each one of you to help facilitate a quantum healing. As you sit there, sit quietly, feet on the ground, hands in the open position, sitting upon your knees or your lap. And now I'm going to ask that you bring down the white light, Creator's light. Bring it down around you, surrounding you, and crystallizing the outside edges. Now invite your guides, guardian angels, ascended masters, everybody inside this safe space of white light. This is the Creator's unconditional love and power. It is His light, and nothing of any darkness can enter in. So now, in your spiritual space, protected, see yourself. Now look at the streamers behind you to your genetic ancestors, and enclose all of them in a trapezoid. What this now represents is any and all ancestors who have been raped or incest in any life, and this goes back to the beginning of time. Now also look to your future generations and put all of them in a trapezoid. And this represents all those who carry these genetic markers which attracts rape, incest, and may have already experienced it as they walk upon the earth. Now see all of you in a standing wave of time. This wave goes back and it goes forward, but you are the mediator. You are the one standing in the middle, representing the you of now. Now through you again, renounce these actions. Say that we don't need these lessons anymore. We no longer are going to allow ourselves to be subject to these anymore. Declare that they have served their purpose. You no longer need them. And now you are proxy for all you represent, standing in this moment. Say thank you, thank you, thank you for the lessons that have been learned from these events. But we're all ready to move forward now, away from them, into new experiences that build and teach love and compassion. Feel the pride and the strength surge into you, and all of them for simply having made this decision. Now each one must tell the one who has hurt them that they forgive them for all the pain, hurt, or harm that has been caused in this life or any other back to the beginning of time, or on this earth, or any other in the universes of universes. Know that for those in the trapezoids, that this forgiveness will be there when they are ready to accept it. And many are accepting now. Now as we call upon Archangel Michael with his flaming blue sword and his legions of light to come and assist us, we want this recorded in the book of life and in the sands of time, in the Akashic records. We ask the legion of blue power to come forth and cut the cords that bind everyone here participating now or in the future, free from their attacker, free from these energies no matter what age it happened or what space and time, free from being made into chattel, free from all subjugation of non-choice, free from all contracts written upon our DNA. Cut us loose, above, below, and around, and see the ties and binds and chains fall away. Now thank you, thank you, thank you for assisting in this freedom. Now wrap yourself and all in the trapezoids with a shining purple light, and fill the trapezoids with the purple light. We want the deepest purple possible because we want it to transmute all ties, binds, chains, to transmute to the most profound microscopic level, to the cellular and to the DNA and the chromosomes. Now express on behalf of all our proxies that the energy they hold that is not theirs be returned immediately to the rightful perpetrators. See these energies rise up and leave. See these energies clean up as soon as they pass through the purple light to return where they belong. Of interest is to note all the male energy standing beside, outside the trapezoid, and even some that are inside this configuration. And as this light leaves, some of them are catching the light and becoming lighter. Some of these perpetrators are desiring the healing. Now call for your energies that may be spread over millennia and everywhere throughout the universes at this time. Call for all particles of love which belong to you, which have been stolen from you, to be returned to you. Such particles of innocence and trust, such particles of love turned to hate. Now call them forth from wherever they may be in the universe's universes, and see them return, and every one of you, because of the proxy who stands for you at this moment of time, so that your high soul can accept this healing in this moment, or when it is most appropriate for you. And as this healing energy comes back, see it pass through the purple wrap and instantly turn just as sparkling white as the new fallen snow, with millions of white lights dancing in them, and return to you, filling each body with this beautiful, beautiful white light. Watch now as the energies swirl and the energies leave and are replaced with the highest possible energies as all are transmuted and set free, with now new choices and opportunities before them. Now the Master Ladies of Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, Lady Liberty, and Lady Freedom have a gift for each of you. They hand to you a diploma, a certificate of freedom, and a shining graduation cap. You are free. Give thanks in this moment. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I now ask that each one of you come back to the here and now as you are ready. this invocation, this prayer, this ceremony is to be guided by Spirit. When done on an individual basis, you may be inspired to bring up other things and to use slightly different wording. And that is great, because this is only a guideline. As each one of you work to establish that connection with your own guides, your own ascended masters, your own I Am presence, your own creator source. As you get in touch with those and open and establish that communication clearly, you will be inspired while doing these to tailor it to the exact spirit or individual with whom you are working with. And it's okay to follow that lead. I do not believe that the form or the exact words used are 100% important. I believe that the intent in your heart and the intent of those that you work with to be healed and to be freed carry most of the weight and are the important factors in doing this work. So with that being said, I guess we are done here today. Thank you all for participating. You can do this a couple more times if you like, until you personally feel that shift and know within the very fiber of your being that this work has worked for you, for your ancestors, and for your descendants. Thank you, thank you, thank you.